Additional consideration paid for by the following. Ohio Neck and Back Pain Relief Center, Scott M. Gray, D.C., across from the Marion Center between TSC and Kroger. For further information, dial 740-386-6580. Also located on the net at goodbackbadback.com. That's goodbackbadback.com.
Along with you on a Friday edition of The Exchange, joined by Charlie Evers, Marianne Michaels, Martha Douse-Manesi, and Shannon O'Neill. Going to have a lot of fun here today. Don't leave your set, because in mere moments, the Queen of Dance and Marianne, the 2011 Popcorn Festival Grand Marshal Parade, Grand Marshal, is going to twirl her rhinestone baton. First time in many years, because Martha, you lost that baton for quite a few years, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And it's just been refurbished.
And it turned up, I had 20 rhinestones missing. I took it down to Carol's jewelry store, and Mary Ann said, Martha, it's going to be $50 to $60 to fix it. Well, I went back in to pick up my family ring, and Mary Ann said, Mr. Lowell Thurston said this is free. So he gave that to me, $50 or $60 worth free.
And that Marianne is not I.
No, that's the Marianne from
the Marianne, right,
Jewelers.
and she is a former student of mine, too.
Oh.
Is that right,
Yes.
Marianne?
Now, Martha, pick up your baton, show it to the camera. This is the most glitzy baton. Now, that's a winner there. Look at that thing. It just shimmers in the light of this room. And by the way, Martha has been twirling baton for years and years and years. Here's the picture for everybody. Up on a ladder at one point, twirling
That's
the
a neat
baton.
picture.
And you are going to get to see that today live in the studio. But before we do that, we're going to go to Charlie Evers for If We Had Money in Marion. This is what we do. Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I'd get a ladder for Martha to stand on if we had some money. No, I've talked a lot about things that Marion needs, but I wanted to mention we're getting into the festival season, as we all know. Marion Popcorn Festival coming up first weekend after Labor Day, and of course we'll be telling a lot more about it. Bratwurst Festival comes up before then, 18, 19, and 20 of August. And I can remember in Bucyrus they had something called Colonel Crawford Days. It was a sale. The merchants all had merchandise out on the sidewalks, and there was a big parade. I was in the parade with my antique wagons and my little kids, and somebody apparently thought, hey, if a crowd like this can be generated for Colonel Crawford Days, why don't we have a festival, you know? And so the bratwurst was the big thing in Bucyrus at that time, always has been, and so the Bratwurst Festival was developed. And it was partially, of course, not only to bring people to town for a good time, but also to reminisce a little bit about the German heritage. Most the original families of Crawford County did come from Germany. I know mine did on all sides, and most people up there. So this celebrates the German heritage, even though it probably is more of a concession type festival. They do have their other events, of course, the bike rides and different things, and parades. They have a parade every night. But I think most people come to festivals to eat.
I would imagine.
I don't know why. Apparently they don't eat at home anymore.
You know that by looking at your front yard.
Yeah,
Toss it
right.
out. Oh,
You
don't
betcha.
get him started
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
We're going to go to Marianne Michaels for words of wisdom today, Marianne.
Well, this is anonymous, and it's really a question and answer. The question is, what is the heaviest burden? Asked the child. Having nothing to carry. answered the old man.
Oh, that's kind of zen, Marianne. That's very good. I like that.
I like it too.
All week in your shots, you've had this chicken. Do you know that?
Yes.
He's been in your one shot all week. Charlie, did you ever name your chicken?
I had a lot of I had 50-some chickens at one time.
Did you name this chicken?
No, I didn't name that chicken.
How about Buckeye Cluck?
That sounds good to me.
That's great.
It's a
Buckeye
done
Cluck,
deal.
yeah.
Buckeye
Buckeye
Cluck.
Cluck.
That's great.
Now listen, Martha Dowse is going to sing, or excuse me, Martha Dowse is going to dance. She might sing a little too. We can never tell with Martha. But before we do that, we're going to give Martha a minute here to get ready. We're going to play footage from Martha Dowse's 60th dance recital. A bunch of her family members paying tribute to the lady who taught them everything, as the program said. Let's go back a few years. Martha Dowse's 60th dance recital.
You're kidding.
Now, here we go. You've waited. I've teased you all week. Here we go. The first and only, in my book, Queen of Dance in Marion, Ohio, the great Martha Dowse Manesi. Martha, take it away.
I'm dedicating this number to Lowell Thurston.
Never had to have a chaperone, no sir. I have to be
about
neat.
Popcorn Festival
That's
Grand
neat.
Marshal, and holding that baton is no easy task. That thing is, heavy. That's 2011 Grand Marshal there for you. Nobody like Martha Douse. My goodness. Let's get into a current event today because this is a big one, and I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions on this one. Did anybody know that Jerry Lewis, for the first time in 45 years, will not be pleading for donations in front of a camera Labor Day weekend after he was abruptly dismissed as the host of the Muscular Dystrophy Association's telethon, an event that drew attention to the childhood disease in its heyday, was an annual television highlight. The group said the 85-year-old legendary comedian would not appear on this year's telethon and would no longer serve as its national chairman, a position he held for nearly 60 years. The telethons have raised nearly $2.5 billion for MDA. The MDA said it did not expect to name a new host this year and that the September 4th event would be shepherded by entertainment personalities Nigel Lythgoe, Jan Carl, Allison Sweeney, and Nancy O'Dell. Jerry Lewis is a world-class humanitarian, and we're forever grateful to him for his more than half-century of generous service to MDA, said MDA chairman of the board, Rodney Howe. The decision represented an about-face from the MDA's announcement in May that Lewis would host the telethon for a final time this year and would appear in the closing moments of future telethons to sing his trademark number, "You'll Never Walk Alone." In recent decades, the event's appeal faded with younger viewers who found the format somewhat dated. Well, Jerry Lewis is gone. He's out. He's history. After 60 years as the MDA president or humanitarian efforts and host of the telethon, he won't even be on it at all. Charlie, what do you think?
Well, it's younger generation, us old-timers, got to go sometime. But Jerry was getting a little, mentally trying. When he was on camera, you feared that he was going to say something he shouldn't. And so he was, a little over the hill. But I hope they went about this whole thing saying, well, get out of here. You're done. We don't want you anymore. Bert Parks, he left, and after he left, I think Miss America lost some of its glitter.
I don't think people will watch the telethon like they did. I think the whole program, Jerry's Kids, is named after this man. And you know what? When you raise that amount of money, $2.5 billion, I think they should have let him go on his own terms, and it doesn't sound like they necessarily did that. Because they said he was going to perform his trademark number, he was going to host one last time, and now they're saying, no, he's not even going to do that.
I suppose mentally they recognize that he should be sidelined.
Marianne, does there become a point where somebody because we don't know that he has been mentally
No, but
unstable.
I think it was time. I agree with Charlie. The last time I saw him, it just made me nervous. And it wasn't a happy thing to watch. I think it was time for him to go. But maybe they should have, in their press release, softened it a little bit and said that, they didn't need to say he was dismissed. That sounded really cold maybe even. But I think it was time. I really do.
Do you think that MDA will generate as much money this year as they did last year?
It's hard for me to say that. But, who knows? They may even do more. They may, if you're interested in the cause, you're willing. I don't think it was Jerry Lewis necessarily that brought in the money. Maybe in the early years, maybe it was. But I think people who have that charity and they feel strongly about it, they'll donate.
Well, of course, MDA is a great cause, but I just have a very big problem because one thing I hate is age discrimination. And this brings me back to a few years ago, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, when 60 Minutes, which was the most profitable show in television, had one of the oldest casts. Don Hewitt was the executive producer of that from the beginning.
Right.
And CBS said, because of your age, they really could not cite anything else. He was in his 80s. They said, well, it's time for you to go. And he put up a big stink and said, I don't want to go. He eventually went, and he's passed away since. But, yes, we've seen Jerry do odd things, but you know what? When he was 30, he was saying, if you go back and look at a telethon from the 70s, 60s, He was always doing those odd things. He was always talking in that stretch voice. And of course, at 85, you're not going to fall down on the stage like you once did.
No.
But I mean, I think this is just Jerry Lewis, and I think if age wasn't a reason, I think he'd still be there.
Well, I don't know whether that's the case, but I think, I know I would, if I were getting old, really old, I mean, I think I would just say, I've had enough. This is, let somebody else who's younger take over. But that's my own opinion.
Well, I think this is not work, though, for him. This is something he believes in.
Yes, it is.
See, and why did they also dump him as national chairman?
Yeah, now that, I don't think that was right. I really don't.
I mean, I don't
No, because he's like an icon.
Well,
He's an
certainly for that.
icon of it. And, no, that, to me, that wasn't right.
One more thing on this. Do you remember about 8 years ago when Jerry had, I think it was pulmonary fibrosis, and he ballooned up to something like 400 pounds?
Oh, yes.
Now, they didn't fire him over that, and certainly he was not at his best then.
Right.
Why now? I think he's doing much better now than he was then. And if he didn't want to leave, pushing somebody out, I'm just not for, unless they are really mentally gone. And I don't think he was.
I don't know.
Shannon, what do you make of this? As the youngest one at the table.
I'll agree with you on this, Scott. I think that in our country, we just have such little regard for tradition and so little respect for our elders. I truly believe that. And so I would be disappointed. I'm disappointed to hear this happening. I think youthfulness is so prized in our country, and I'm just not sure that's the best way.
Well, it really bothers me that it said in the press release, in recent decades, the event's appeal faded with younger viewers who found the format somewhat dated. Now, okay. Now, is it more on Jerry Lewis's head, or is it more on the demo we want for this show?
Yes, and that was not a good thing to say, because first of all, it's not the young people who are paying and donating, so that, I don't understand that statement at all. I really don't.
I really think we're going to find out more about this, and I think somebody is really just picking their bones, as they used to say here in the MDA, and I think they're picking them with Jerry for some reason. That's, well, Charlie, really, we moved on here, but I want to give you a chance to comment. Why would you say in a press release in May that he is going to host one last time? He's going to get a big farewell. He's going to sing the goodbye song for years to come, and then here we are less than 30 days out, and sorry, you're not going to be there at all.
We don't know what's happened
Right.
behind the doors. There might have been a very big blow-up of some kind.
There could have been.
But just think who Bert Parks, there she is, Miss America. And Guy Lombardo, and Midnight, New Year's Eve, and of course Dick Clark, American Bandstand. I hate to lose those old timers. I mean, they meant so much to so many people, and that's the way it goes.
But time passes, and I think this happens a lot, and I totally can understand it. I really can, because I mean, they're most of the time these people are legends, but there's a certain time to say, hey, that's it. There's no more.
Well, Marianne, here's another thing. I get a little weird about this for this particular purpose. Jerry Lewis is doing this Labor Day thing. He works one day a year doing it. That's it. It's 20 hours.
Right.
Now, Dick Clark is still doing Rocking New Year's Eve
Yes,
after
he
a
is.
horrible stroke,
Yeah.
which I think has left him in a lot worse shape than Jerry Lewis is.
I think something happened, Scott. I think
Oh, I
something
think so,
happened,
too.
because if they said that he was going to do it and then they changed their mind, there had to be a good reason for it. Maybe he just went off the deep end. Who knows?
Well,
I think that's very unusual that they said he was going to do it and then all of a sudden he wasn't. Something came up that precipitated that. That's what I think.
Let me just play happenstance for you, though, Marianne. What if tomorrow, and I think he will, Jerry Lewis, I believe, before Labor Day is going to issue a statement. If he issues a statement where he is talking sanely and he is moving, which last time I saw him he was, what does that say to you then?
Well, I would say, I don't know what it says to me, because the people that put that on have the prerogative to do as they wish, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, but I think you also have the prerogative to stay at your desk and say, if I raise $2.4 billion for 60 years, heck no, I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not going easy, just because you don't like my demographic. Charlie, don't you feel that way to some extent?
Oh, yes. But I still I have that funny feeling every year that, as he got older, you just hesitated. I mean,
Oh, sure.
worried that he was going to really foul up.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have been doing 20 hours anymore.
Now,
but-
yeah, I'm sure he didn't or couldn't handle any of the money, so there's probably no misappropriation of funds.
Oh, no.
But I don't know if anything like, the use of the money was brought into question.
It's interesting, and I just found that story very disheartening because I liked watching Jerry Lewis. Was he the man 20 years ago? No, but he still had some jokes. He had a history to talk about that other people didn't. I'm going to jump into another one here. I've been holding off on this one for a few weeks. I'm going to try to go to it very fast with 4 minutes left. After 4 years of nearly straight A's, honors, and advanced placement classes, 18-year-old Kimberly Wimberly, weird name, achieved the highest GPA at McGee Secondary School in southeast Little Rock, Arkansas, according to a court complaint. However, instead of awarding the student for her hard work and dedication, the school denied her the valedictorian status because she was black, claims the document filed by Wimbley's lawyer, John W. Walker. According to the court document, this is not the first time this has happened in the school's history. This is the quote. The defendant's actions were part of a pattern and practice of school administrators and personnel treating the African American students less favorably than the Caucasian ones until Wimbley, the last African American valedictorian in the McGehee School District, was in 1989. Although the high school is predominantly white, 46% of the students are African American. Wimbley's mother, Molly Bratton, said in a federal discrimination complaint that after her daughter had been told she would be the class valedictorian, she heard whispers of discontent over her daughter's race. Wow, in 2011 that's still going on.
Yeah.
Charlie, what do you think?
Well, it's going to blow up too. I mean, that's a bad thing to have happen. And there's a lot of answers that the school officials and others are going to have to come up with, which will never answer the question, really. Was it discrimination or not?
Mary Ann, when something like this goes on, I mean, where do you lay it down at? I mean, is it discrimination? Is it a change of mind? What is it?
I think it's very poor. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. If she was should have been, if she won the honor of being valedictorian, she should have remained valedictorian. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with accomplishments, and I think that's very poor on the part of that school board or the principal or whoever was the person that decided on that particular situation.
What did the school officials say?
Yeah.
What was their...
Let's see if we got a repeat from them. I'm sure they said something on that note. Shannon, what do you think of what we've heard so far?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
Yeah,
coughing.
no.
I didn't even get
What do you think
the
of what we've heard so far?
Oh, I cannot believe that we are still wrestling with this issue today, but I have to tell you,
It's
having
there.
a brother who lives in the South, and he's always lived in New York City or in Ohio, and he said the transition was eye-opening because there are still those attitudes that we don't see quite as often here in the North, but gosh, I mean, the South, and I don't want to say anything about a sweeping generalization about all people from the South, but it's there.
It is.
Well, according to this story, the school board would not hear an appeal on her daughter's behalf and has released no statement. They just wouldn't even hear the appeal. I don't know. That's awful shady dealings.
It's very shady.
And I'm sorry to hear that. But you know something, when we talk about how people are in the South and so on and so forth, with 1 minute left, a major thing happened, obviously, in 2008 when we elected the first African-American president, and by a pretty wide margin. Now, that says something good about the United States, but I think the punishment he's taken since...
And it is a lot of reasons because of his race. I really believe that. But speaking of the South, there are people down there that still feel they should have won the Civil War. They really do. And my son recently, well, he's been there almost 2 years maybe, moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and he was from Ohio, and there's those Ohioans, where they come from. I mean, I don't understand that. I really don't understand the situation like that, you know. But it's there. It really is there. I mean, and it's prevalent. Now, that doesn't mean he's having a horrible time down there, because he's not. He likes the city, and he's doing well with his job, and family likes it and everything else. But there's still that little undercurrent that, you know, they still, some of those states even, well, I think some of the Tea Party people, I believe, or maybe it was just the governor from Texas, Perry, who may be running for president, who at one time who suggested seceding from the Union.
Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Before we get on out of here, irmcommunication@gmail.com. The Exchange Marion on Facebook is how to get in touch with us. Martha, you did such a great job today performing. Does that ever leave you, those routines?
Oh, I have a ball doing that. It just makes me think of all the years I've done it.
And we should mention right there behind Martha, Joe Manesi, her longtime husband. And you can't do a popcorn festival without talking about Joe Manesi all the years as JoJo the Clown. What a fun week this has been. See you next week.